What is up, everyone? It's been a while, been a minute, but we're back. Don't worry. It's gonna be back recording another episode. Derek, Dulabim.
Yeah, man. First time in a while. A little rusty. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Glad to be back. We've got a pretty important episode here today, something that we've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And this goes to talking about the importance of creating a language learning environment in your daily life. Something that you can do on a daily basis where you don't have to go out of your way and feel like you have to go and study or, find something that's inconvenient. We know everyone's busy, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to be later on when we get to these points. First of all, we're going to make this a two-part episode. The first part is going to be about why we feel it's important, because we feel like that's an episode in its own. So that way you're not just listening to us and being like, oh, here's how you do it. It's like, why? You're always going to want to know why. So that's why the first episode, we're going to explain to you, hopefully motivate you all and understand the importance of creating this artificial language learning environment. And then our second part is going to be on how to do it and our best tips for implementing strategies. So Derek, you want to start us off with our first main point as to why we feel it's very important that you create this artificial language learning environment at home?
Let's do it. So first thing, we've touched on this before, but it's been a while, so maybe our viewers forgot, right? Just taking classes is not enough. It is a great foundation, but it is not enough to get you from zero to fluent. It's just not going to happen unless you're a prodigy. So
Yeah, unless you have magical language learning abilities like Superman. I think he has that. Regardless.
and if you are, then why are you taking classes anyways?
Yeah, you're wasting your time.
Not that classes are a waste of time.
Yeah.
They do serve their purpose,
Yeah.
but people rely on them a little too much.
We're going on a tangent here. Regardless, taking classes is simply not enough. I think that's something that Derek and I can both speak on, and experiences that we've both had. I know me personally, when I first started learning languages, I was 12 years old, took my first Spanish class, and I was like, oh, heck yeah. Like, I'm going to take Spanish. I'm going to take classes for 3-4 years, and I'm going to be so fluent, like by the end of high school, and I'm going to be able to be super saucy and like be native and be able to talk to anybody. And then I graduated high school. I was like, okay, like did good in my classes. Then I got to college. I'm like, okay, college is when I'm going to do it. And then like 2 years into college, again, same thing, like not to brag about my grades, but I was getting really good grades and everything, doing really well. And I'm like, I still cannot hold a conversation with a native for the life of me. I don't know, what was your experience like, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was pretty much, I felt the same way going into high school. And then I was like, oh, if I'm taking AP Spanish, I'll be fine. Wasn't. And then going to college, before I went to Spain, I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to be in Spain for 4 months. I'm going to come back. I'm going to be perfect. Like, not just fluent, perfect. And I'm just going to have reached like a peak, never going to have to worry about like practicing my Spanish or anything like that. So like I'm essentially going to become a native speaker. That's not how it works, but I digress.
Yeah, clearly not. And there's some explanation behind that too. What I realize is, obviously that provides a good foundation. We're not discounting taking classes at all, because obviously that's where you learn all your grammar, your vocab, like a lot of reading comprehension, and a little bit of speaking as well.
Yeah.
But there's so much that's left out of being in a class, and if you think about it, you're only there for like however long your classes are each day, and you're communicating with your classmates in English, or your teachers might tell you, hey, talk in Spanish, but you're just there studying. It's not really fun either. Like once in a while I enjoyed Spanish class, but I don't think anyone really enjoys conjugating verbs and studying flashcards and doing homework. Like that's not what a language is. A language starts, you learn a language so you can go to these countries and talk to people, not so you can just study them in school.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, a class is a class, and like Nick said, most people don't love school all the time. So anyways, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah,
Go to our second point.
Yeah, before we get to that too, I will say just a little bit more to add on. I'm really passionate about this, as you can tell. But yeah, I just think that the excitement of learning a language starts when you step outside of the classroom. Like for me, I kind of found myself in a dead period with Spanish where I was like, man, this has been 7 years, not improving. What's the point of me even doing this? And that's when I had talked to Derek, because he had this experience a little bit before me. And that's when I stepped out and was like, well, actually, like, when I go out and, you know, sure, my first couple conversations were horrid, but the more I started to improve and just immersing myself and creating this environment that we're talking about, then it just became fun, and it just completely changed my outlook on languages and just helped me discover that it was my passion. So yeah, on to our second point. Another big misconception when it comes to this, and we feel like why it's important to create this artificial environment at your home, is a lot of people, including myself, also thought for some time that in order to become fluent in a language, you have to live in a country. Like, oh, I can't become fluent in Spanish if I don't move to Mexico, if I don't move to Spain. And that is obviously cap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's especially in the day and age that we live in. You know, we have technology at our fingertips all the time. We have wireless headphones. We have everything. So really, that, if you're creative enough, can sort of replace it, right? In this artificial language environment that we often refer to. And it's something really cool about the world we live in today, right? And obviously, yes, if you go and live somewhere, you know, if you go to Spain, you go to Mexico, go to Colombia, wherever, obviously that's still going to be like a really great way to do it, potentially the best way to do it. But most people can't do that because we have lives, we have things that keep us where we are. We have, you know, exactly, we have commitments to our current lives, and we can't just drop everything and be like, all right, I'm out. So.
Yeah, like Derek said, it's hard to do that. It's hard to obviously, you know, go live in a foreign country, no matter what age you're at. That's a big commitment regardless. But if you just take a little bit of time each day, we say like 30 minutes each day. And if you just take the time to think about just the technology we have nowadays, and just keep in mind, like, just do something in that language each day. We recommend 30 minutes. Might be hard to get to that every single day, but just do something of, like, you know, I read an article in Spanish, or I listen to music. Like, everyone has their own interests and own things that they want to do. So just try and create that environment. And obviously there's certain things that, you know, we feel like are more important than others. Like, you know, going out and finding a language partner. Like, you know, if you say, oh, I don't know anybody who speaks Spanish, I don't have any friends who speak Spanish. Well, I didn't. Like, I've said maybe I had a couple, but not that I was super close with. So I went online through language learning apps, and I found language partners and was able to talk to them, and I had conversations for hours over the phone just with them. You can meet people online. Like, I've never met my language partners in person ever, and might not ever meet them in person. But I've still been able to talk to them and feel like they're my close friend through technology. You've got YouTube, you can watch YouTube videos, you know, you can listen to music, you can change your phone to Spanish, just like little things like that go a really, really, really long way.
Yeah. The good thing for our viewers is that little preview, we're gonna have a whole episode covering exactly that. So stay tuned, that's coming up.
We'll go way more in depth, and the things that we've enjoyed a lot, our own personal things, but the cool part is everyone's different. Everyone's got their own interests. Mine might even be a little bit more different than Derek, even though we have a lot of similar ones. We all have different strategies, and everyone's different. So you got to personalize it. There's not one right way to do it.
But there is a right way for you. You know, you're gonna find something that's gonna be your way of learning Spanish or whatever language it may be. So that's the whole point. Is moving on to our third point is finding ways to make it enjoyable. Because really, at the end of the day, the more fun you have doing something, the more likely you are to do it. And you're not going to see it as a chore. You're not going to see it as like, oh, I have to set aside time for it. Because we all have that one like hobby or kind of chore that we've been trying to find time for 6 months now, you know, and we don't get around to it. And that's why we really stress this of incorporating Spanish into your daily life, and we're going to get completely into that and how to do that. But right now it's just important to stress that it is important, because if you don't, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, like you said, just make it enjoyable. And it's very hard. Certain people might be better at it than others, but I know me personally, it's super hard for me to like be like, okay, I'm gonna wake up and study 20 flashcards a day for this whole year. Because let's be honest, I don't enjoy flashcards really. I don't enjoy studying flashcards. But what I can do is wake up in the morning, I drive to the chiropractor, and it's a 20-minute drive, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna play some, some music in Spanish. It could be reggaeton, it could be anything. Like, I just love listening to music because that fills me with energy, gets my day going. Like, I love music, and I can listen to some great songs and like get me in a good mood in Spanish.
Yeah.
Or
and that's something.
yeah.
And something's always going to be better than nothing.
There's no right or wrong thing to do, we'd say either. Like, it's, as long as you find it enjoyable, then that's when you're really going to see yourself improving, because you don't have to go and find the motivation to go do it. You don't have to go,
Find the time.
if you're working a 9 to 5, or even if you're working 10 hours a day, you don't have to be like, oh, I have to go home now. And I was working all day at my desk, and now I have to go home and just sit.
Do Spanish.
Yeah. I'm going to open up my textbook and I'm going to go and study. Like, sure, that stuff can be important once in a while. Obviously, it is important to have that foundation, but to keep a consistent like habit of it, screw that. That's
Well,
no one enjoys textbooks unless you do. You could be
you
calling
never
me
know.
out.
You
Yeah.
never know.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our episode. Anything else to add, Derek?
no, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Well, we appreciate y'all listening. It's good to be back. That was our first episode back in a long time, part 1 on the importance of creating an artificial language learning environment in your daily life. As always, feel free to check us out on Spotify in our audio only portion. Check us out on YouTube as well in case you want to see our lovely, beautiful faces and our interactions. Some of you might, some of you probably don't.
Probably don't.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that's all right. Just put it both out there. Once again, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all on the flip side for part 2.
Stay tuned.